Hi, my name is Avi Visualization. I'm the Associate Dean of the Mussar Institute, and today we're going to talk a little bit about the Mussar practice called visualizations. The Mussar teachers distinguish between two basic aspects of the mind. They are the seichel and the dimyon. The seichel, which is the intellect, refers to the part of our mind which controls rational thought, distinguishes between good and evil, problem solves. The dimyon is our imagination. Our imagination is much more free, it's less tied to rules, but the advantage that the dimyon, the imagination, gives is that we know that the expression, a picture is worth 1,000 words. What that really means is that if we're to experience something, to have something affect us deeply in our inner selves, the dimyon, the imagination, is a much more powerful tool than the rational mind. The Alter of Kelm once asked his students, what's the difference between a tzaddik and a rasha? A righteous person and a wicked person? And he answered that the difference is not that the wicked person does the wrong thing and the righteous person does the right thing. Of course, that's true. But he said the difference really is which pictures are in the person's mind. The pictures in the mind, that determines if a person is going to be righteous or evil. Picking up on that same theme, Rav Shlomo Wolbe, a contemporary Mussar teacher, tells us a very astonishing thing. He says that the way in which one can change one's midot is because midot are character traits, and the way in which a person can change those midot is because a midah is essentially a paradigm. It is the first picture that comes into one's mind, and those pictures can be changed. Just for an example, imagine you're sitting at a stoplight and you're waiting for the light to turn green, and suddenly the car behind you revs his engine and slams into you. What is your initial reaction? The first picture: I am going to give this person a piece of my mind, or maybe even a piece of your fist. You jump out of the car, you run over, and all of a sudden a very large, muscular individual steps out of the car behind you. What happens to your mental picture? What happens to your picture of what you were about to do? Suddenly, fear overtakes you, and your mental picture suddenly doesn't fit the situation. Visualizations allow us to have a strong inner experience of an idea. How can one have a sensory experience of a concept or a lesson? And how can this experiential learning that one does through visualization help us overcome our spiritual tests, our challenges, when they inevitably come upon us? So the practice of visualizations really, the first place in which we practice it is to experience a difficult or an abstract concept or lesson that we're trying to learn. A classic example is Rav Eliyahu Dessler, a student of the Kelm tradition of Mussar. So he gives us a visualization for the concept of eternity. Eternity is something which is very difficult to conceptualize, to feel, to experience. So he says, imagine that there's a bird and there's a mountain. A huge mountain, looking out to the hills of Beit Shemesh. Imagine that once every 1,000 years, a bird flies by to the mountain and takes 1 grain of sand from the mountain. 1,000 years pass, and the bird comes again and takes 1 grain of sand from the mountain. 1,000 years pass, and if a person closes one's eyes visualizes that concept, then eternity becomes something more real to our experience. I remember Rosh Lovi again, so I had the privilege of listening to him many, many times. And I remember each year before the holiday of Shavuot, where we celebrate receiving the Torah at Har Sinai, each year he would speak, he would depict, he would visualize for us what it would be like to be standing at the foot of the mountain and receiving the Torah, with the thunder and the lightning and the fire and the statuesque personality of Moses being there on the mountain, speaking to God. And he went through, with lots of detail, how to visualize the experience. And through that visualization, brought it to life. The second place in which we use visualization is to prepare ourselves for moral challenges. And the way we do that is that we go through, in our mind's eye, the situation, and we live through the experience before it happens. I had this with my students when I was teaching post-high school students who came for a year to study in Israel. So often there was a great transformation that occurred, and a lot of them had difficult relationships with their parents. Any of us who have teenagers knows what that's like. And they were about to go back after 10 months of not seeing their parents, mature, and they were worried about the interaction with their parents. How would their parents perceive them? Would they really appreciate who they have become? And I would tell them, have the conversation in your mind's eye with as much detail. What will they say? What will you say? How will they act to you, and how will you react? If a person does that, you have a great tool that will prepare you for moral challenges when they actually come. This could be with any relationship, any strained, any difficult, challenging relationship that you have. Walk through it in your mind's eye before the encounter. The key to visualizations, and this is again one of the ways we distinguish between the seichel, the intellect, and the dimyon, the imagination, is the seichel likes concepts. It likes fundamental concepts. Whereas the dimyon is all about details. It's all in the details. The more details we can depict in our imagination, in our mind's eye, the more alive the experience will be. And if we do this repeatedly, it will create, as the Mussar masters tell us, a trace on the soul and will affect transformation.